You've been climbing to the top of what seemed like your career mountaintop for almost a decade, only to realize that it's only now that you're truly getting started. Your journey of formally structured higher education is finally coming to an end. Undergrad, maybe a master's degree, dental school, maybe a residency afterwards. Some of you dreamed of this day with a clear vision since the start. And some of you just kind of moved forward full steam ahead and honestly haven't thought too much about what you'll do once school is over. At least you haven't thought so much until that moment was inevitably barreling towards you like, a train's loud smokestack blaring, hey, what are you going to do with your life next? This question may be in the form of the voice of your friends, voice of your family, or maybe just that inner voice that's always with you saying, hey, what are you going to do next? Either way, it's finally time to get to work. Everyone's destination is going to be a little bit different, but the initial pathways that we follow after we finish school or a residency are pretty much going to be fairly routine, all things considered. As a newly graduated dentist, there's typically 5 major career pathways to kind of launch you into your working life. For some of you, this could really be your first real job that you've ever had, despite inching up dangerously close to being 30 years old. Some of you may be older. Your education has put working life on pause for a period of time that some of your old high school buddies wouldn't even be able to wrap their worldview around how long you've really been in school and in training to have this career. But either way, the time is now, and there are 5 choices, 5 pathways. Which of the 5 pathways will you choose to follow to at least start your career? Not that you couldn't switch later, but where are you going to start? Here is some information on all 5 and my perspective, a bit of my perspective on all 5. And keep in mind, this is just my opinion. Okay, pathway 1 is going to be an associateship in private practice. Okay, a private associate dentist job is thought to be like the golden goose job for many new grads. Most of your classmates would be excited and honored to have a job in private practice to kick off their careers. The positives are obvious. Potential to work under an older mentor, potential to earn well financially and get your feet wet, potential to work in an environment with higher level dentistry and plenty of creature comforts. There's also an assumed level of respect from your peers when you say that you work in private practice. The negatives about private practice associateships are less loudly announced. Number 1, pay can be unpredictable. A private owner is not always as ready to provide for an associate as they think. If you're paid on production or on collections, if you lack patient flow, your income could be significantly lower than you expect, especially in the beginning. Now, you may end up making a lot and doing really well, but you don't know for sure until you actually start working and find out what you can produce and what the practice can provide for you in terms of patient flow and quality support and opportunity. Another negative, limited benefit offers. So oftentimes the private practice associate dentist will have the fewest benefit offers of any of the 5 pathways that you could decide. This is in terms of healthcare benefits, retirement, sick leave, time off, paid CE, maternity leave, and so on. Often these are not offered in private practice associate jobs. Another negative that I often see is going to be expected ownership mentality. Now, what does that mean? So some owners will expect you to grow your own practice within their practice and place a large burden of establishing patient flow and the production that's in the schedule on you, even though that you really have no stake in that business yourself. Another downside is they're difficult to find. Okay, there's often limited opportunities. So hopefully you've been networking throughout school to set something up. Okay, another one. This will round out the negatives of the private practice opportunity. Dentists are not famous for being great business people, believe it or not, and a lot of the private offices will have poor managerial infrastructure. Oftentimes the business structure of the private practice is haphazard at best, and it can make your life more difficult to say the least. This may include leadership, clinical flow, patient flow, and billing related infrastructure, all things that will directly or indirectly influence your work life. Okay. Pathway number 2 is going to be the corporate associateship, okay? A job in corporate dentistry. Lots of dental students and dentists bash corporate dentistry. Very common. However, lots of dental students and dentists, regardless, end up working in a corporate dental office. This pathway is probably the largest employer overall of new dentist grads. The CEOs of these companies are well aware of their negative reputation among the dental community, yet they continue to thrive. Why is that? Corporate jobs can be solid, but it wasn't for me. Those of you who know, my very first job was in corporate dentistry. I quit my job in corporate dentistry after only 3 days, and I do have a separate post about that is linked in the article below. But let's look at the positives, okay? They are always hiring, okay? Pretty much at all times, a corporate job will be available nearby to you as a dentist, okay? Also, the pay is predictable. Oftentimes, the work environment in corporate can be, the contracts are typically very clear as far as what you're going to get paid, and can often be more competitive than a private job. There may even be benefits, but they usually say, hey, this is your contract, this is how much you're going to make, okay? The environment in corporate dentistry can also be more forgiving clinically, okay? Corporate offices typically do serve less high-end clientele, and high-end clientele are usually more picky clients, particularly when it comes to cosmetic work, okay? So there might be a little more leeway in terms of pressure to perform at a certain level if you feel like maybe you're not there yet, okay? The negatives, as your boss is likely not a dentist, okay? And likely someone who does not even understand dentistry to begin with. It may at times feel like your clinical judgment and clinical competence are being undermined. When you apply for the job, of course, they're going to tell you, oh, the office manager will never influence treatment, and it's all up to you as the dentist. We won't implement your clinical judgment. I can tell you that they virtually always do, whether directly or indirectly with their policies. Okay, so that's something to be aware going into it. Okay, another downside is there's a revolving door of staff, okay? It can be really hard to hit your stride when the staff is always changing. When you have a new assistant every week and there's a new manager every month. Corporate offices are notorious for a high staff turnover rate, and that includes the dentists, okay? Another downside is the grueling pace. Corporate dental is kind of famous for having a grueling pace to work at. The rapid and heavy flow of patient treatment is hard for many new graduate dentists to handle. You may be seeing in the realm of 30 patients per day as a dentist, and in dental school you saw maybe 2 patients per day, and burnout often occurs. They say corporate dentistry is a good place to start off and get some experience, but how much are you really learning and what habits are you picking up in this environment? Okay, pathway number 3 is going to be public health. Okay, so the private associateship is thought to be the golden goose of jobs for a new grad. In my opinion, public health may be the real golden goose here. These jobs are often extraordinarily difficult to acquire in a traditionally desirable area to live, okay? But they're quite easy to acquire if you're willing to live in a highly remote area or somewhere that's less traditionally desirable to live, if you're willing to move into a more isolated location where many of these jobs are available. Okay, the upsides are major. Oftentimes you're going to have good to excellent pay. The more remote, the better the pay. And there's also typically well-established benefit packages which are far superior to the typical associate job offer. Also, there's a well-established structure that's often found in these organizations. The clinics may be overseen by government or a university, and oftentimes they're overseen by a dentist with a public healthcare background, where corporate jobs are systems typically driven by businessmen in business suits. Public health dental jobs are typically driven by dentists with public health backgrounds and understand the value of your clinical autonomy. Okay. Another positive is respect. This is typically a very well-respected job by your peers and by the public. You are doing a public service and helping an underserved population. This is noble, and peers and beyond will respect that. Look in the mirror and you can be proud of yourself too for what you're doing. You are one of the few that's actually tackling the access to dental care barriers within dentistry, which all too often is an access to money for dental care barrier. Again, there is something noble about providing free or reduced price dental care to those that are in need and making a great living on top of it, okay? Another positive is the potential to work your way up leadership roles. There are often directorial jobs available in which you may be able to influence local resources and public policy within the dental profession in your area. If you aspire to serve something larger than yourself and just working in your clinical chair all day long, the potential is here. There may be also a more clear route to have an impact on the community and healthcare where you live on a wider scale. Okay, the negatives are few but very clear. One is there's no potential to own the business. That's a negative of corporate dentistry too. You're not going to own, whichever corporate you're signing up for. It's also difficult to find a job like this in a traditionally desirable area. Oftentimes you have to move somewhere very remote. But hey, maybe you like living remote places and this might be just for you. Or maybe you're lucky enough to find one that is in a desirable place where you want to live. Okay. Pathway number 4 is practice ownership. This is what I did. I applied for my practice loan to open my practice when I was a 4th year dental student. And I had already cornered the location that I would be practicing. My business plan, marketing, website, name, logo were all taken care of by my 3rd year in dental school. Doing a startup practice straight out of dental school is rare, but it is what I did, and there is going to be a corresponding long form post about this and how I did that. It was right for me. If you want my personal one-on-one help and want to learn my strategy as well as my business system and business fundamentals that you didn't learn in school, the Practice Launch AGD accredited CE course that I operate might be exactly what you need, and that was a shameless plug. And it is shameless because actually my CE is really good. Okay, but buying a practice out of school is easier than doing a startup, and it's also a great option. Notice I said buying a practice, not buying into a practice. If you're thinking about buying into a practice as a new grad, please read the article that I'll have linked below to introduce you to someone called Old Doc, and we'll talk about buying into a practice after you've worked there for a couple years. Okay, Old Doc might have a twinkle in his eye. You'll learn all about that. Okay, the pros to ownership. The highest income potential is going to be in ownership. If you're a good business person, you will make far more money than any of the other pathway options. Okay, another pro is you get to play the game by your rules. The cons of ownership is this is going to be the most difficult and stressful path, definitely and especially early on. Okay, it also has the lowest income potential. Okay, there's no guaranteed income. If you are not a good business person, you could potentially make little or even no money. Okay, there's also limited mobility. A lot of people don't think about that. Once you buy a practice or start a practice, you are tied to that physical location. So be sure this is where you want to live. Pathway number 5 is going to be academics. Some new grads just keep on going to school. Establishing strong rapport and reputation with the faculty at your dental school can open up this 5th opportunity, but this pathway is definitely not open to everyone. You'll need to have fortitude to teach a class of dental students and rub shoulders with dental faculty. The pros are going to be long-term security, stability, and benefits, more so than any of the other doors. Most often, the faculty track could provide you with a fulfilling, decades-long career that could even transition to other universities if you ever decide to move to another state. You'll have that resume backing you. You'll get to pass your knowledge on and help the next generation of dentists thrive, prepare, and learn. Also, this may be a pro for you. You won't be doing as much dental work. If you're not a fan of clinical dentistry, you won't be doing as much physical treatment as a typical dentist because you're going to be teaching and instructing. Okay? The cons, well, if you like doing dentistry, that's a downside. You won't be doing as much dental work. If you enjoy clinical dentistry, you'll be doing a lot less of it. Another con is you will be playing the bureaucratic game to work your way up. But if you have the right personality, maybe you can turn that into a positive and really excel. Okay? So those are the 5 opportunities and a little bit of my perspective on them. New grads, which pathway are you going to choose to start your career? Kaizen, let's get a little bit better every day. If you like my content, my videos, my articles, please invite other dentists and dental students to join the Practice Biopsy group, and we will all work together to get a little bit better every day. 5 is going to be